You know, cranking is definitely probably my strongest thing to do in tournament fishing, and when I look back over, you know, like the last 6 or 7 years ago, I wasn't a very strong crankbait fisherman. But one thing that I've done, and this isn't something you can do all the time, but what really helps me is kind of the changing my approach to how I use a crankbait and when I use a crankbait. Really, I like to use it more as a reaction type bait than more of a bait that you would use to work on like a feeding type school of fish. And I use them on those too. And what I mean by that is I like to power fish it or fish it extremely fast and get that reaction bite. And a lot of times I'll use it on real isolated pieces of cover, things that really are not holding a school of fish, just one or two, you know, fish. And you know, be it a brush pile or whatever, if you can run that crankbait into there and contact that brush and get it to deflect off and come towards a fish, you know, say he's suspended off to the side of the fish, and this works great in this time of year, you know, like we're in right now, this August, September, October time frame, when a lot of fish have been pressured, they're not ready to move shallow, you know, they're not in a summertime mode, they're just kind of lulling around, you know, a piece of cover. If you can get that crankbait to deflect off of something and shoot straight up into that fish, you know, and it comes right across his face, he's real apt to come out and eat it. And you know, we saw that this past year at the Falcon tournament. It was tough, but there was still some fish on some of the real community type waters, but it took that power cranking. I mean, I'm throwing a 7-3-to-1 gear ratio reel and burning it almost as hard as I can. You know, it hits something, it comes up, deflects off something, gets right in up close and personal to that fish, and you know, he's going to eat it. You know, he's going to eat it because he doesn't like it getting into his personal space, you know, even if he's not feeding. So, you know, that's something I've really changed probably the way that I fish a crankbait. And the main thing there, the main ingredient is speed. You know, fish it fast. Don't be afraid to hit the cover, and look for that deflection. You know, make it hit it. And sometimes it takes 3 or 4 casts. That can be the key thing, you know, until you get it real close to that fish. Just imagine he's sitting there off to the side of that brush or that stump or whatever you got. Bump it with that crankbait and it shoots up in his face. This is one of my favorite ones to throw. It's a 5XD. I choose it because I can fish it extremely fast and it tracks true. It's got a big bill, and you know, it runs at a pretty steep angle, so when it contacts something, you know, it's going to hit it with the front edge of that bill and shoot it away from the hooks. So that's critical. So look for some of those ingredients in your crankbait. Try speeding it up if you're not getting bites. And this goes for cold front conditions, anything. Kind of not your textbook typical tough bass fishing scenario where you think you ought to slow down. Try speeding up. Try burning a 5XD through them.